Greetings ladies and gentlemen, and today I'll be looking at the last Fire Emblem game in the Gameboy Advance lineup, The Sacred Stones. Development began just a little after Path of Radiance was announced. Most of the team at Intelligent Systems were too busy working on Path of Radiance, so a lot of the development team was handled by an external team known as Flagship, a former Capcom team known for working on the scripts for many series such as Omnimusa, Dino Crisis, and
Resident Evil.
But if you grew up with the Game Boy Color and Advance back in the day, you may recognize them for the handheld Zelda titles, as well as Kirby and the Amazing Mirror. Sacred Stones was released in October 2004 in Japan and November 2005 in Europe, which is pretty funny as it says the exact same European date as Path of Radiance. Sacred Stones was directed by Sachiko Wada, Tachi Yubutaka, and Tentaro Nishimura. Unlike Blazing Sword, I did not originally own the game, as my oldest brother decided to buy the game and I was already busy with Path of Radiance. Years later he gave me his copy with the box included. I also own it on the Nintendo 3DS as part of the Ambassador program and the Wii U Virtual Console, making it my most owned copy of any game. Well, if you don't count the original Super Mario Bros. That Nintendo just loves to give out. With this somewhat of a mini Fire Emblem marathon, you'll see how Sacred Stones holds up. So, unlike the other two GBA games, Sacred Stones is set in the continent of Madville, a land that was once ruled by the Demon King, until 5 heroes sealed the monster thanks to the Sacred Stones. Each land was named after the legendary heroes, and each stone was kept safe in each kingdom. 800 years later, the Kingdom of Renaissance, out of nowhere, were invaded by the neighbor kingdom of Grado. The Kingdom of Renaissance died during the invasion. However, the daughter to the king, Erita, managed to escape to Freya along with 2 knights, Franz and top-tier Seth. The intro to Sacred Stones reminds me of the first Fire Emblem game, Shadow Dragon, as both Erita and Marth were both forced to escape their homeland from the enemy kingdom. Later we hear that Erita's brother, Ephraim, along with 3 knights, goes all predator against the Grado Empire. Erita decides to head to Grado in search of her brother, and during her journey she finds undead monsters roaming across the land. I will be mentioning spoilers for the rest of the game, so if you want to skip the spoiler section, I recommend skipping to this time. During her time looking for her brother, we hear about the Emperor Grado's motives of destroying the Sacred Stones. Seth reveals to Erita that her and Ephraim hold the key to the Renaissance Stones in their bracelets, which is the reason why the enemy is after them too specifically. Erita manages to arrive at Grado. Unfortunately, one of Ephraim's men, Orson, betrays them and manages to trap Erita and her small army. Fortunately, Ephraim comes to the rescue and are reunited with each other and head back to Freya, in which they plan out their next plan of action. This is where the game splits off into 2 and gives the player who to follow for the next 5 chapters. Enes, the Lord of Freya, heads off to Johanna to warn them about Grado's invasion to destroy the stones, as they already destroyed Freya's stone, and to forge an alliance with them. Erita's 10th mission is to warn Roston, but unfortunately that objective gets sidetracked as Enes gets bombarded with enemy troops, so Erita decides to save him. Both Enes and Erita enter Johanna. Unfortunately, things go messy as the Johanna stone gets destroyed and the Queen of Johanna dies. Grado's soldiers lures Erita's army to a trap by setting the castle on fire, and the 2 Grado generals are waiting outside to hunt her down. Meanwhile, Ephraim decides to do a full frontal assault on Grado. During his assault, he encounters his old mentor and one of Grado's 6 Imperial generals, Duressel. who has mixed feelings on Drado's plans, so he decides to join Ephraim's cause. The 6 Imperial Generals are actually some of my favourite characters in the game, as their morals and loyalty to the throne are conflicted, and we definitely see this in Duracell and Sienna. While both characters are conflicted on where they lie in the war, they both have different outcomes, and while Duracell decides to join Ephraim's army, Sienna sticks by the Emperor's side till her death. After the conflict against Sienna and the Emperor, we learn that the Emperor has actually been dead for ages, and the Emperor's son, as well as Ephraim and Erita's childhood friend, Yayan, used the power of the Darkstone to resurrect the Emperor. With no surprise, the Darkstone basically just controlled the rotten corpse. Ephraim hears about his sister's ambush in Johanna and comes to her aid. After the fight between the two generals, they find their homeland in chaos, as the former Knight of Renaissance, Orson, has taken over. Yet, Orson is blinded by his love of his dead wife, who believes he is alive, while in fact she is a husk similar to the Emperor. This chapter stands out to me due to how depressing the scene is and how it was handled, as you don't even see his wife, and how everyone reacts to the situation. While I don't approve of Orson's actions, I do feel sorry for him. I like how the development team handled Orson's character, as he actually started out as a playable character who turned into an enemy, which is shown in actual gameplay. Anyway, Orson is finally off the throne, and Ephraim is crowned King of Renaissance. The twins obtain the stone and the legendary weapons. They give chase to Yayan, who was responsible for the war and to protect the stone of Rostin. Throughout the campaign, Yayan does not seem to be himself, as his personality shifts from kind and apologetic to evil and sadistic. It is revealed that the Demon King is controlling Yayan's body, while Yayan's soul is slowly fading away. Meanwhile, the Renaissance gets destroyed, leaving only the Rostin stone remaining. Depending on the character you followed halfway through the game, Yayan destroys the stone in different ways. If you chose Erita's route, she just gives Yayan the stone without any force. Honey, I know you care for your friend's safety, but giving the stone to the person who is being possessed by a demon and is intending to destroy it and the world is such a stupid thing to do. The twins confront Yayan and the Demon King in the Darkling Woods. Yayan apologizes to Erita and Ephraim before his soul fades away, and the Demon King is resurrected. They manage to seal the demon's soul with the stone and kill his body, restoring peace to Magville. Fire Emblem Sacred Stones plot isn't anything groundbreaking, and out of the majority of the games in the series, this is one of the most straightforward. While I love both Erita's and Ephraim's design, and Ephraim is a total badass early on in the game, there aren't very captivating characters. Excluding the two main protagonists, I enjoy the majority of the characters. I love the band of trios, Yuraitsu, Dozia and Renok, who are full of spirit, and the majority of the time they appear made me chuckle. My other favourites include Joshua, Seth, and Cormag. However, the true stars of the show are the villains, which are one of the strongest villains in any Fire Emblem game. I like throughout the game we see what they're up to and know more about them, and not all of them are simple "Mwahaha, I'm evil," Well, some anyway. My favourite is the Wyvern Lord, Volta, who just oozes with charisma and just loves being bad. Just like the other Fire Emblem titles, Sacred Stones is a turn-based strategy game with each chapter having different objectives ranging from taking over the enemy's castle, defeat all enemies on the map, to surviving for a number of turns. The number of chapters are smaller compared to Blaze's Sword, plus there isn't any guiding chapters in this game. However, halfway through the game, the campaign splits into two, following either Erica or Ephraim, each with their own exclusive maps. This game takes inspiration from Fire Emblem Gaiden, as the player gets to explore Madville to fight off monsters, which allows the player to grind if they so desire. This will make the game a lot easier as the player can train their units into gods, and can breeze through most maps. During Erica's playthrough, I did some grinding fighting off monsters in between chapters, and during my time going through the story, I had a pretty easy time. I did the opposite for Ephraim, and only did 1 or 2 skirmishes in between chapters, and it was only slightly harder than when I did grind. Like its predecessors, permanent death still exists, which can be a nuisance when a great unit dies, but due to the game's difficulty, this isn't a big issue. You do have weapon durability in this game, but most of the time I didn't have a problem running out of stock, as you can easily buy weapons on the world map. Resources in Fire Emblem really comes down to preference, as some people like, or at least don't mind, unlimited resources, but some people do prefer the item management side too, and having the ability to buy weapons and items does remove the item management challenge. Sacred Stones brings back the concept of villages from Gaiden with the trainee class. Trainees are weak units with poor stats, but can level up a lot faster than the standard class, and once they reach level 10, they automatically change into a regular class. I actually didn't use them often, as I was perfectly happy with the other units I had. Plus there are only up 3 in the entire game. Sacred Stones introduces the new promotion classes and promotion branches. For example, my mage can be promoted to a sage, which can use staffs, anima, and light magic, or can be promoted to a mage knight, which cannot use light magic but can ride on horseback, giving it great movement. The option to choose what your units can be promoted to is a great feature, giving the player a huge range of options of how they play the game, giving Sacred Stones excellent replay value. The promotion branches also came back in future installments like Awakening and Fates. Being the third title in the Gameboy Advance lineup, Sacred Stones uses a lot of reused sprites and backgrounds from its predecessors. This is most likely due to that Sacred Stones was just released over a year from Blaze's Sword. Plus, most of the staff were working on Path of Radiance, which needed more time to be developed, as it was the first title to be released on home consoles since Frazier 776. This isn't too much of a complaint, as I love the talented designer and director Sachiko Wada's artwork, but the lack of expressions compared to Blaze's Sword is disappointing, as everyone only has one facial expression. Well, technically Erica and Ephraim do have a sad expression, but it doesn't change much from the original portraits. Their battle animation sprites, on the other hand, are still beautifully crafted, still making the Fire Emblem games having some of the best sprite work on the Gameboy Advance. Yuta Tsujiyoshi returns as part of the role of sound supervisor, but didn't actually provide music for the game. Instead, we have Saki Hariyama, who I forgot to mention in my previous review, Yoshihito Hariyama, and Yoshihito Kitamura providing scores for the game. Yoshihito Kitamura is a former composer for SNK, known for his work on the Fatal Fury and Samurai Showdown series, and is apparently best known for his keyboard performances. The SNK music library has some pretty great blood-pumping tracks. I don't know a lot on music terminology, and I couldn't find what tracks he worked on for his time at SNK, but I can hear the comparison between those games and the boss encounter music for Sacred Stones, a powerful foe, which is a substantial track. It's not my favourite soundtrack in the series, there are some decent pieces in this game, like the previously mentioned Powerful Foe and the new recruitment theme, Comrades, which is not as excellent as Together We Ride, but is still a treat to the ears. Sacred Stones actually did a lot for future titles in the franchise, such as reintroducing the world map, which was last seen in Gaiden back in 91. And introducing the Bronson classes. For a series known for its strong storytelling, this game is one of the weakest, but it does have one of the best cast of villains, not just in the Fire Emblem franchise, but in Nintendo's library. While I prefer Blazing Sword and suggest putting up for newbies to the series in my last review, I would say that Sacred Stones or Awakening is the better choice for people new to the strategy genre, for its easier difficulty. If you're a veteran to the series that has not played Sacred Stones yet, I suggest starting on hard mode. The Fire Emblem series is one that I hold dear, and I look forward to the future of the series. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I hope you have a wonderful day.